What if someone told you there's a creature that is biologically immortal? That is to say, theoretically, this creature will never die of old age. It could live forever. And this is not just a myth from some fairy tale, but a real living creature that lives in our world today. In this video, we'll talk about the strange life of an axolotl, also known as the smiling salamander. How does this creature avoid death? Why do they have to smile all the time? And what are these creatures? And where do they live? So let's take a look at this unique animal. The axolotl is a type of salamander and ranks among the most unusual creatures in the world. To be honest, this creature looks like a mixture between a lizard and a fish, and it's sometimes called the Mexican walking fish. But actually, it's neither a fish nor a reptile, but a very peculiar amphibian. And although it's called a salamander, it's more closely related to newts than to salamanders. Did you understand it? In fact, it's easier to say that it's a kind of amphibian. And this is important for us to understand why this creature can smile, stay young forever, and even grow new limbs. Axolotls belong to the family of lungless salamanders and are native to the lakes near Mexico City. They live in water at all stages of their lives, from birth to death, and breathe through their skin and gills. All this would be enough to make this creature very rare and unique. But this is far from the most interesting thing about it. All axolotls have a genetic mutation called neoteny. Neoteny means that the animal retains its larval features in adulthood. And when I say larval features, I mean the features of the larvae of amphibians, which ultimately turn into terrestrial vertebrates. You probably know how tadpoles look like, the larvae of frogs and toads. They have big eyes, big heads and tails, no limbs or very tiny ones, and they live entirely in water and breathe through gills. So the axolotl is essentially a kind of perennially developing tadpole, and that's why it has such childish features as a big head, big eyes, and external gills. But the most amazing thing is that in nature, adult axolotls don't change over time. They remain approximately 6 inches long, which is about 15 centimeters, and weigh no more than 2 ounces or 55 grams. They don't get any bigger. It's as if a human stopped growing at about 20 years old and remained in this form forever. The axolotl is biologically immortal because it cannot die of old age. Of course, it can be killed, eaten by some predator, or simply crushed, but it won't die a natural death. However, scientists suggest that in artificial conditions, that is in captivity, the average lifespan of an axolotl is about 10 to 15 years. And this is a lot, given that the axolotl doesn't get much bigger and remains physically a child. And I think we can agree that childhood lasts for quite a long time, don't you think? These creatures live at the bottom of lakes and move pretty fast, but only in a straight line. Well, they can't swim very well. They seem awkward and clumsy in the water, but maybe that's what makes them so cute. If you want to see an axolotl in the wild, you should go to Mexico, because that's where these animals are found in nature. But even there, seeing an axolotl isn't easy because they're endangered species. There's only about 1,000 individuals left in the wild, and all of them are in Mexico. So go to Mexico if you want to see an axolotl in nature. So the axolotl is an unusual amphibian that lives its entire life in water and breathes through its skin and gills. It's also genetically modified, which keeps it in a state of permanent youth. But why does it always smile? As it turned out, everything's not so simple here either. You may have noticed that axolotls smile differently at different ages. Baby axolotls have a wide smile with widely spaced teeth, while adult axolotls have a narrower smile with closer set teeth. And then scientists came to the conclusion that the shape of the mouth and the smile of the axolotl depends on the temperature. When they raised the temperature, the axolotls opened their mouths wider, showing their teeth, and when the temperature dropped, their mouths narrowed. Moreover, scientists believe that this behavior is directly related to breathing. The warmer the water, the faster the axolotl's metabolism, and the more oxygen it needs. And therefore, when the water warmed up, the axolotl opened its mouth wider to take in more oxygen. In nature, this behavior helps the axolotl regulate its breathing and maintain the right amount of oxygen in its body. Scientists have conducted several experiments on this. For example, they put the axolotl in water at different temperatures and observed how the animal behaves. Scientists also measured the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water and calculated how much oxygen the axolotl needed. All this research helped scientists better understand how the axolotl breathes and why it needs to open its mouth so wide. And the last thing I want to tell you about is the most interesting feature of the axolotl, and that's the ability to regenerate limbs. Have you ever seen a dog run and accidentally hit its paw on concrete? Do you know how it feels? Well, imagine that you have 5 of those injuries at once. Yes, this is exactly what happens to axolotls when they move around stones at the bottom of lakes. Their limbs are constantly injured, and this means they need to be constantly regenerated. And the most incredible thing is that the axolotl regenerates not just a nail or claw, but a whole limb together with bones, muscles, and nerves. And the regenerated limb works exactly like the original. The axolotl is the only animal on Earth that has this ability. Even starfish, which are famous for being able to regenerate their limbs, cannot compare with the axolotl because they can only regenerate certain parts of their bodies. And this means that, in theory, the axolotl can lose all 4 limbs and even part of its tail and body, and then grow them back. And I bet you've already figured out why this ability might come in handy. Yes, that's right. It helps the axolotl survive and live forever. But that's not all. If a predator bites off an axolotl's limb, the axolotl can then grow 2 legs instead of 1. So theoretically, an axolotl can become a 6-legged monster. It sounds scary, but losing a limb is not such a big deal for the axolotl. It'll just grow another one. This salamander seems to be perfectly adapted to life on Earth, and nothing threatens it except humans. People caught axolotls in large numbers to eat them, and also to use them as bait. Because of this, the number of axolotls in nature has decreased dramatically. And although the axolotl can live forever, it may die out completely. But don't worry, scientists have taken the axolotl under their protection, and now it's illegal to catch or kill it. So what do you think of this animal? Would you keep an axolotl as a pet, or would you prefer to admire it only in the wild? Be sure to write about it in the comments below. And that's all for today. See you soon. Bye.